Board. Welcome to the nodes in Pisces and Virgo. So we've come together here to explore that. It's been with us since January. The nodes moved into Virgo Pisces, and they were on that 0 Aries point, 29 Pisces point. Neptune was on it forever. But now it's firmly into Pisces Virgo. And so much is going on in the sky with Jupiter moving into new sign, Aries, and Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, Uranus in Gemini. So it's a big year for astrologers.
Massive, massive year.
And
Everything is engaging.
as Jupiter moves into Cancer and the nodes are in the North Node in Pisces, we are also plugging in the fabulous special retreat in Bali. And I'm going to let Lisa introduce that.
Thanks, Maurice. So, end of October this year, so commencing the 25th till November 1st, we are fortunate enough to return to the most beautiful location in Sanur, Bali, where we are very welcomed by the Santry and Gria Hotel. Those that went last year would definitely put their hands up to say it was an incredible experience. So let me share with you just a little bit of what you may expect. So apart from being beachfront in this beautiful 4-star hotel, it's really authentic Balinese style. The sort of things that we will do, apart from having, of course, presenter, there's some of us there. Look at that. We get to dress up just in all the beautiful Balinese costume and clothing. But there will be Maurice, Mark, and myself. And Mark is not here today, obviously, but just to let you know, he's going to be talking about one of my most favourite topics, which is the asteroids and how we weave them into our chart. And he's also going to be talking about karmic relationships. You know, most significant relationships in life, I believe, are karmic. You've got to have pretty good karma or karma with someone to maybe be their mother or their lover or their sister or whatever it might be. So Mark's going to be talking about the karmic influences through the nodes in synastry. I'm going to let Maurice share with you his topic, but I can tell you I am going to be doing 2 presentations. One of those is about really working with the transits through the evolutionary lens. So the gifts of the gods. And I truly believe transits are written into our soul contract and we ask for them to turn up. And so there is no bad transits. Every transit is right, even though it is going to challenge us, push us, and perhaps take us out of our comfort zone. So I'm going to be presenting on the gifts from the gods. And the other presentation that I'm going to be doing is on understanding that soul contract. What did we actually sign up for? And how can we in this lifetime really work with releasing ourselves from some of the karmic cages so that we can really heal and evolve into the best versions of ourselves? So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And just to let you know, your package will include your accommodation, breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea every day of the seminar. It will include a trivia night that we're going to have, an astrological trivia night, as well as our opening night and our super social banquet night, and a closing ceremony that's going to be very, very special. And we have some other optional things that you can do. You'll have some time off as well. We're making sure also Maurice does fantastic yoga in the morning. And this year, I'm going to be offering some meditations that we can do at the beginning or the end of the day, to really just integrate all the wonderful information, learning, stimulation, connections that we're going to be having whilst together in Bali. And, just reminding everyone, Zoom, as we all know, because here we are, is the most fantastic tool. But it is so important that we come together as a tribe. And I know everyone that does that, just, the experiences are immense. So one last thing, of course, this is open to everyone in the world. And if you're coming from the States or Europe, converting the Australian dollar price of the retreat into US dollars and euro makes it even more of a bargain. When you consider everything that you receive, not just the incredible inspiration and learning that we all do together and from each other. But so, you're probably looking at about 50, the euro and the US dollar are a little bit separate, but I'm just going to give you a rough idea. And anyone that wishes to email, I can give you exact prices. But we're looking at probably about 1,500 US/euro to about 2,300 for everything. So it's really an opportunity to, really revitalize yourself spiritually and emotionally and physically in a beautiful place with lovely astrologers, all of us, connecting as a tribe. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're going to be experiencing come the 25th of October.
I mean, $1,560 for a week with accommodation and meals and astrology, 3 presenter. That is a bargain. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And
And Maurice, sorry, if anybody, I just wanted to add this, because if you have a partner that might not be wanting to do the astrology, not be wanting to, be part of the daytime activities, but maybe wants to come with you and have a holiday and relax and join in the
we have
meals.
nannies for spouses.
We have nannies. We also have a very special deal, because if you join or register for this retreat by the 1st of July, your partner can come for free.
All right.
And also for all of us that travel, which is going to be pretty well all of us, unless we're living in Bali come October, I'm including a free foot spa for everyone in this registration special. As well, there are other specials, and I'm going to put them out when we send the recording. But certainly the foot spa and the partner coming free, and there are other bonuses as well, which I will include when I send it out. So extra goodies for us.
Is it Mark doing the spa for everyone?
Yeah, he doesn't know that yet. Yeah. No, it will be done in the spa at the hotel by the
Beautiful.
lovely ladies. Yeah.
And the link to get to the program is aquariusrising.net.au/Bali retreat. And then you click on the brochure to get the program. Just a note on what I'm going to speak about. I mentioned Jupiter moving into Cancer. And so I'm going to do a full immersion for 3 days into Jupiter in every sign. Obviously, how it affects your chart. And, Jupiter has a good reputation in astrology. We all look forward to our Jupiter transits. And yet it's more layered than that. There is an ideological side to Jupiter. There is a shadow side that we need to explore as well. And I'm a Scorpio, so there's going to be some look into, where it hurts as well. But it's in order to go deeper into this archetype that is often treated very superficially. Now, as Jupiter moves into Cancer, it's obviously a water sign. It brings a lot of ancestral knowledge. It brings a lot of feminine wisdom. And there is something about the recovering of that ancient matriarchal wisdom. And so, speaking about the asteroids and doing all, that Mark is going to cover, and doing all the work, in this very nurturing, very Cancerian environment, obviously by the water, is kind of capturing the Jupiter energy. And I want to also share with you the chart for the event, because it's going to be a grand water trine in water signs. Let me see here. So you can see Jupiter is going to be in Cancer, then Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, and then Neptune and Saturn are retrograding for a short while, their last, Pisces immersion. And so this is true for this year. As the North Node is in Pisces, this is a period where there's a lot of water energy, which is conducive to this kind of experience. And after that, we move into this all fire, all air, all masculine signs. With Jupiter is going to move into Leo, Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Aquarius, in Gemini. It's like everything's in fire and air after that. So this is kind of our last window into the more nurturing and pacifying energy. Yeah, a lot to look forward to. I do want to take the time briefly, as we speak about Bali. I want to also speak about a panel that I will be leading on June 21st, coming up this next week, where we're going to unpack all these big changes and moves. So just keep that in mind if you're interested. But as far as Bali, I think that I haven't seen anyone unpack Jupiter the way I'm going to do it. And the theme is called Truth and Dare for Jupiter in every house, every sign. So this can apply to your natal chart, and it can apply to the transits. And Jupiter is important because it's the traditional ruler of the North Node as well. And I want to speak to that because as I'm going to now unpack the meanings of the nodes, we have to look at the rulers always. When you analyze the nodal axis, you have to see where the rulers are. Here, it's Virgo Pisces. So you have to look at Mercury, South Node ruler, Neptune, North Node ruler, and Jupiter, co-ruler of the North Node. And see what happens in October. They're all in that grand trine, pretty tight. So Mercury is not just Mercury, it's the ruler of the nodes, trine Neptune, trine Jupiter. That's part of the reason I wanted to talk about this nodal story today. And I encourage you, as you track your transit and you see what's going on, the nodes are going to stay for a year and a half in Pisces Virgo until July 2026. And you think it's going to be the same thing because it's the same sign. But as Mercury changes sign, as Neptune shifts from Aries to Pisces and back, you will feel the shifts of how the nodal story unfolds. You wanted to add something, Lisa?
No, it's just such an incredible time to be alive collectively, that we've all chosen to be here at this, everything re-engaging in such new ways. So, and, I'm sure we're all hearing from our friends, our family, our clients, this how we're all breaking down in the process of this rebuilding. And it's challenging, but it's also very exciting.
It's
So,
a new
and
identity,
absolutely. And the core, the nodes are the core root, the pulse that run through our lives. So it's just so very important to be doing this work. So I'm very
It's
excited for all of
it's
us.
I call it the spine of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
It really connects the incarnation and disincarnation, how we
Mm-hmm.
move from one life to another. And the spine is exactly where the Kundalini, travels to incarnate and disincarnate. Yeah, the nodes are definitely so central and deep.
Yeah.
And so, as I mentioned, they moved into Pisces Virgo in January 2025, and the cycle of the node is approximately 18 months retrograding. So they're going to move later in 2026 in Leo Aquarius. I'm going to talk about also the eclipses, because where the nodes are, the eclipses go. And the reason is that the eclipse of the new moon and full moons on the nodes, those of you who may know that, a lunar eclipse, this is the previous lunar eclipse in March, you have a full moon conjunct the nodes. And the closer it is to the nodes, the more total the eclipse will be. So you have partial eclipses and total eclipses. And then you have a wide range of different types of eclipses. But from an astrological point of view, I will share my experience is that they're all powerful. Like, even if it's not a total eclipse, it's going to be dramatic. And I'm going to show you some examples. Eclipses are game changers. Now, there are 4 eclipses a year. So naturally, the universe is not going to have us change our lives 4 times a year. So eclipses don't necessarily affect everyone. But when they do affect you, your life can be completely transformed. And we're going to see how. But see it as a fated moment. And in ancient culture, they looked at eclipses as, time to be cautious. They were, the light was disappearing, and some interpreted that as something dangerous. But in reality, what happens during an eclipse is that it's something of a higher order taking place. And the light is out because your ego is not invited. It's a place where the more subtle energies, the more, the energies that are more spiritual are active. And think about it as the gates of heaven opening, a portal into other dimensions. And so it's so critical that many souls come and go during eclipses. This is why it's also, a time that people are a little apprehensive, because it could be departure time, but it's also arrival time. A lot of the mythology of eclipses will tell you that kings and queens and royalty and those who are uh, the heroes and those who are changing the world are born on eclipses. So it's a time where there's a special destiny. So it's again fate, higher order. So you may feel like you're blindfolded and you don't know what's going on, and things are changing around you. And you only notice after the fact that, oh my God, I went through something really powerful, intense, and eclipses can take things from you and then can propel you to different dimension. And so I wanted to use this lunar eclipse because, as you can see, it was conjunct Saturn. So you had a Sun-Saturn conjunction ahead of Saturn moving into Aries at 23 degrees Virgo Pisces. And it happened to be that a few weeks later, just in April, you have three new leaders into the world stage that have their sun exactly where the eclipses, the lunar eclipse was. I mean, Albanese didn't have his sun, but he had his Jupiter at 22 Pisces. And note that in Canada, Mark Carney had his sun at 25 Pisces. And these two leaders were not expected to win. The opposition was actually stronger at some point. But when you are in the eye of the eclipse, human logic is out the window. There is something of a higher order. Things change rapidly. And so the odds change with people reacting to Trump coming into power. And part of it was wanting to defy that trend. But what I want to say is that the tables can turn quickly during eclipses. And sometimes the unexpected one can rise to power because there's an element of fate. What I also want to demonstrate in this example is that eclipses are not negative. They don't have to be, at least. If you ask these three folks, they are in a good, happy place to have been selected and are now, on their higher mission to do whatever they are called to do. So don't fear eclipses, even though you are in the hands of fate. The other thing to remember is that eclipses can have an impact that can last several weeks to several months, at least until the next eclipse season. So when is there an eclipse? As soon as the sun comes to the nodes, you are in eclipse season. When the moon joins the sun, either on the north node or the south node, you're not just in the season, you're on the actual day of the eclipse. So you're going to have eclipses when the sun is on the north node and eclipses when the sun's on the south node. And so that means that because it's Pisces Virgo, the eclipses are in March and September. Pisces and Virgo season. And so we went through the first round, and there's going to be a second round. Now, as I said, these degrees of the eclipse are going to be critical at least until the next eclipse when it's on the south node. And here is a sad example of an eclipse. This lady, Melissa Hortman, was assassinated in the United States today. A tragic event. And, it's a hate crime. She was killed very likely by someone who was against abortions. And she was a politician who, was advocating for women's rights. That's the reason why he decided to kill her and her husband in her home. Now, the eclipse was in March on her Pluto square Mars. So that's for her, translated into this tragedy. And so that's what I mean. Eclipses can occur also later in the process. And we have a whole generation of people with Pluto in Virgo. It doesn't mean you're going to be, in harm's way per se, but it is a time where there can be intensity. The nodes are going to be on your Pluto, the eclipses are going to be on your Pluto, and there may be changes that I'm going to highlight. But in her case, because it's in the fourth house square Mars, this took that turn. And you see that the event also occurred when the moon was conjunct Pluto. So what are these nodes in Pisces, Virgo? What's the lesson? We tend to focus more on our natal signatures. What's our story, where our soul is coming from. But you have to pay attention to the transits as well. I, invite you to pay attention to these transits of the nodes because there is something very compelling about where the North Node is. It's like it's an energy that becomes so strong, such a strong pull. If we go back in time, just to give you an example, when the North Node was in Cancer, we had COVID and everybody had to stay home. Like, how is that for a North Node in Cancer? Then they moved into Gemini, Sagittarius. And in the United States, we had the Black Lives Matter movement following the death of George Floyd, which was a cultural, ethnic issue, and of course, abuse of power. But that led to the need to recognize globally, not just in the United States, to recognize how people of color are represented and the need to tolerate diversity. So all the programs about diversity were spearheaded during this North Node in Gemini. How, Gemini and diversity, how graphic that can get. When they moved into Taurus, we had the Ukraine war with Russia break. And everybody got up in arms about the economy and how the war affected utility prices in Europe and internationally, because Russia and Ukraine are providers of gas and the breadbasket and whatnot. So food prices and gas prices and a lot of inflation, deflation that eventually led to a bubble burst. So there was a lot about Taurus, Scorpio's themes, about the prices. When it moved into Aries, you had a lot of liberation movements. And one of the event, sadly, was the October 7 in Israel and Gaza, leading to this atrocity and terrible, terrible war and adversity and polarization. And from both sides, this need to kind of protect my rights. And you see how the Palestinian cause, the need to exist, the need to be recognized, has never been stronger following the devastation. And so this Aries fight to be was amplified. Now, I'm talking about global events. Think about your own life, right? How did you feel that? Where did you need to step out and speak up and stand up for your own existence and for your own self? So now that they moved into Pisces Virgo, what is Pisces Virgo about? Number one, it's an axis that has to do with labor, work, jobs. Those of you who are familiar with my body of knowledge, you know that I associate Pisces with collective service and how we can tap into the service industry through whatever skill we have as astrologers, as cooks, as sailors, whatever your profession is. Pisces represent the service you're offering. Virgo is the skill set that you have. So during the time that these nodes are in Pisces Virgo, there are a lot of questions about your professional development. And I'm not too familiar with, what's going on politically in Australia or in other places in the world, but I can tell you in the United States, as soon as these planets got into Virgo Pisces, you had this massive firing of employees, governmental employees by the Trump administration, trying to cut costs and laying off basically hordes of people who suddenly find themselves losing their jobs. Now, even if you're not part of that group of people, the topic of employment and the issue of immigration became an issue of, do we have labor force? If there are no more immigrants coming in, who's going to do all the jobs that, people are, who were immigrants and coming into the country were fulfilling? So, working in the fields and working in, other service industries. So there were a lot of questions about the labor force. Do we have enough people? And if we remove them, who is going to replace them? And the whole agenda, the whole political agenda of also imposing tariffs on the world is all about creating jobs in the United States. So whatever measures were taken, whether it was the firing, whether it was the immigration, or whether it was the tariffs, it all revolved around Virgo Pisces themes of employment, who's going to be employed, who's going to be fired, and how to bring more jobs. So that's one important theme. Now, even if you're not living in the United States, because I'm most familiar with what's going on here, and you probably, are hearing Trump all the way across the ocean as he waves his flag, and it's his birthday today. you may want to look at how your work situation is evolving during these 18 months. What are your strategies? How do you feel, your nodal story for this time is evolving? Now, you have to apply this to the house that it's in. We're only focusing on the general themes of the signs, but it's going to be in a particular house, and that will, of course, be specific to your story. But generally, see where you want to move forward, what needs to be eliminated. And when you speak about the North Node, which is where do I need to go with my job, there's something interesting to learn about this axis, because the South Node in Virgo says, what do I need to do? What do I need to fix? What do I need to learn? So it's all the management, the organization, the logistics. Lisa is preparing the Bali retreat, and she's coordinating with the hotel and sending emails and whatnot and doing the website. So all that is Virgo work. The Pisces part of it is when you don't have control, is when you have to trust that you're going to slide and it's going to evolve in the right direction, that people are going to lead you where you need to go. And so as we do all this work for Bali, the Pisces says, there's a point where we just need to let things unfold naturally, organically, and not, try to control everything. So the Pisces North Node tells you, well, Maurice, maybe your retreat is going to be on a penguin island in Antarctica instead. It can shift things. And so if you plan on something with your North Node in Virgo, you need that flexibility of the North Node in Pisces, because the North Node in Pisces will have a life of its own. It's something that you're not fully anticipating. It's not in your hands. So it's scary because we like to be in control and we like to have goals and to have all the boxes checked. But when the North Node is in Pisces, there's an element of faith that kicks in. There's an element of trust, water. You have to trust the process. And if you freak out and you go down, you go back to your South Node and you get into anxious Virgo mode, then you lose steam and you lose the momentum of what the North Node is trying to say. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is a need for flexibility, and there's a need to see that whatever plans you have professionally and else, be ready to improvise. Be ready to also be in the moment, to go with the flow and not be rigid. Otherwise, in a very Piscean way, you may sink your ship. It may become overwhelming. You may feel defeated. Any question about that? I just want to make sure everybody follows and you understand, you can apply that to your chart. So if you have questions, you can post them in the chat. So Lisa, you are of the Pluto in Virgo generation. And so the nodes, the South Node will touch your Plutos progressively those who are born between the late 50s to the 1970, I believe. That's when Pluto moved into Libra, 70, 71. So Pluto and Uranus in Virgo. Right now, I'm going to check. I believe the nodes currently are at 22. So see what degree your Virgo planets are and Pisces planet, because the nodes are, you don't only look at where the rulers are, you're also going to look at if you have any planet in Virgo Pisces. The moment the nodes touch your natal planet, that planet becomes active. Even more so, it's on steroids. So if you have Pluto Uranus on steroids, think about the restlessness of change, the need to kind of recalibrate your Virgo work and how you want to do things. And Uranus in Virgo, how you're going to upgrade. I need an upgrade in my work. I need to ask for a raise. I need to buy new equipment. I need a new training. That's Uranus, new, higher, upgraded. Okay, so that's how it works. Now, if you have, I don't know, the sun in Virgo, when the nodes move on your sun, you can get recognition. You can suddenly be on the stage, and people want to hear from you. You're going to be hired for the job. If you're looking for a job and the nodes are moving on your sun, you'll get the job, most likely. So that's, the power of the nodes. Now, other things that relate to Virgo Pisces, we talk about management in general, talk about logistics. So all issues of control and no control. So Virgo is obviously, lifting your sleeves, show me the work, what do I need to do? And Pisces says, why don't we go to Bali? Why don't we have a foot massage? How about that for a North Node in Pisces? And the reason is that Pisces relates to taking time out of time. We are busy in our South Node in Virgo to produce, to harvest, to feed, to pay the rent, all those practical necessities that keep us going, the maintenance, the hard labor. But the Pisces North Node is about the fact that don't get stuck in the hamster wheel. You need also to nourish your spiritual side. First of all, get good sleep. That's an actual Pisces imperative with a North Node in Pisces, is to focus on the quality of your sleep, to recharge your brain and your batteries. And so it's taking us now to the axis of health. Virgo Pisces are also, how do you take care of yourself? How is your body maintenance, right? And so people who are only catering to the Virgo side, and they go to the gym and they take their vitamins and they try to eat healthy, great. But if you cannot sleep, if you cannot have a foot massage, if you cannot spend time meditating, if you cannot relax, then the anxiety of Virgo is going to fry your nervous system. And then it affects your immune system, because Pisces is the immune system. Now, because of the other planets, Pluto being in Aquarius, Uranus entering Gemini, if your immune system is weakened because you're too stressed out, this will affect your nervous system, Aquarius, Gemini. And you may become, again, succumb to nervous tension. So the remedy of Pisces is taking time out of time. If you can, go to swim, sleep well, and do those, involve those spiritual practices. So many people are going to feel during this transit, this whole 18 months, they're going to feel like, okay, my life is what it is. What is missing? I feel like I need more meaning. I feel like I am in this rat race. I am on this hamster wheel, and I am, my life is fine, but I'm not happy. I'm not really relaxed. And so that is part of the necessity of Pisces, to incorporate other elements for not only physical health, but spiritual health. And so many folks are in, first of all, as we are astrologers and we learn about this, we can ask people to be proactive about it. If you feel the symptoms of a burnout, Virgo South Node burnout, invoke the Piscean energies. Learn to nourish your spirit. And, we are bombarded also by constant news. With all this Aries energy, war is breaking everywhere. There's intensity. That too affects our nervous system. And the remedy is Pisces conjunct Neptune. How to nourish your nervous system, how to, change your lifestyle so that you are not burning out. And it may be for some people that they need a break, that they need time off. So where does that sit in your life? Where are you at with your own professional development? Where are you at with managing your lifestyle? Do you feel like you have a healthy routine? If you have something to share, you can share in the chat. Would be happy to hear some personal stories. But that's the gist of it. Now, another thing, I'm speaking about is, I spoke about the eclipses. We know what's going on with Iran and Israel. The second eclipse that occurred in March, there were two eclipses, a lunar and a solar. The solar one was in Aries because it was a little further away from the nodes, and it happened to be right on the sun of Iran. So again, you have a delayed reaction, but there it is. Now, the next eclipse, excuse me, before the next eclipse, we have another important activation. The South Node is going to conjunct Mars. So now Mars is in Leo, and Trump had a Mars return. Netanyahu had a Mars return. Israel had a Mars return, and they're all Marsing out their energies. You know, they are all over the place. As Mars moves into Virgo, it's going to tame the intensity. But for our purposes, keep in mind that as Mars moves into Virgo, all your questions about professional development, getting a job, upgrading your jobs is going to gain traction. So for those of you who are, you know, in transition professionally, that Mars in Virgo will help you. For those of you who are naturally very busy, be careful, because that Mars will spin that hamster wheel faster. But it's going to ask you to do things right, to manage your life more effectively. Now, as I said, everything that touches the node is on steroids. So that Mars at 19 degrees Virgo is going to be on steroids. If you have a planet on 19 Virgo or Pisces, pay attention to the middle of July. This can be a major breakthrough time because Mars is going to accelerate, intensify change. So if you're looking for a change, you know, this can help you, can give you the energy. However, if you are mismanaging your life, if you're scattered, then it can lead to changes and ruptures. Mars cuts. So you have to pay attention to how this is handled. And you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it coming. So the moment you know, okay, Mars is on the nodes now, you know, early July, you'll start to have a sense of where this is developing in your own reality. So pay attention to where Mercury is. Oh, Mercury's in Leo and it's retrograde during this time. Now, Mercury's in Cancer, right? If we look at the chart for today, it's in Cancer. So the moment Mercury moves into Leo, it also brings more prominence. You're going to be able to showcase what you want to, you know, it's good for interviews. Let's put it this way. The North Node is in Pisces, two rulers, Jupiter in Cancer, Neptune in Aries are square. This is what we're going to talk about on our panel on the solstice, is how this square operates. Now, when you have a lot of movement into cardinal signs, think about it as needing a new chapter in your life. It's like people relocating, people, changing strategies. It's an identity crisis because it's an identity question. It's evolution. And evolution often occurs through doubt. So you're birthing, Cancer, Aries, you're birthing something new. We all are. During this time, on a more collective level, you may see again people who are in position of power, countries, leaders going through a change. It can be a collapse for them. Saturn is the authority, but it can also be a renewal. So geopolitically, expect many, many changes and dynamics for the solstice. Later the year, in September, we have our first lunar eclipse that's going to take place at 15, Pisces, Virgo. So that degree now is the degree, where the action is. Notice where the nodes are, 18. Because when there are eclipses, the nodes freeze. So they're going to freeze on 18 degrees for 6 weeks. And that means that if you have a planet at 18-ish, Virgo, Pisces, you're going to have the nodes on them for an extended time along with eclipses. So that planet is getting royal treatment. And, that's important. So I see some questions.
About the orbs that you use, Maurice, or what? That's
Yeah, I mean, the orb will be obviously stronger within 2 degrees, but you can extend it to 7 degrees.
Yeah.
So if you have something around 17, 18, it's very much in the eye of the vortex. But if you have planets around there, the eclipse is going to happen at 15 and Saturn is at 29. So it's a wider range. Jupiter is going to trine all this from Cancer, which can give you family support or, something about your support system can be strengthening and something nourishing for you. Now, if we speak about employment, if you are in a job transition, the Virgo Pisces eclipse can again be an activator, just like Mark Carney or Albanese got a new job with the eclipse, or Pope Leo got a new job. This can also be a time when you get the news for some kind of professional development. The ruler, Mercury, is going to also be in Virgo during that time. So that strengthened that whole employment thing. So see where Mercury is. If you have planets in Cancer, if you have planets in Leo, wherever Mercury is going to travel, for you, it will also bring that nodal energy to those places. So 15 to 18 degrees is where the action will be. And because the moon is going to be now on the north node, there's going to be more emphasis on that. What do you need to relinquish? What do you need to let go of? What in your routine needs to be loosened. And where do you need to make some sacrifices? Where do you need to basically trust? One of the messages of the Pisces North Node is indeed learning to trust again. Not overthink, not overanalyze. Know in your heart that you're doing the right thing, and do the right thing as you think about that. The next eclipse, because they always come in pairs, is going to be more intense. That's on the equinox, right the day before. And that's an eclipse at 29 Virgo. And why is it dramatic? Because it opposes Saturn, Neptune. So if we speak about leaders and the risk of collapse and people falling from grace, this is an eclipse that will test integrity, the right use of power. Are those in power, deserving their mandate? The Saturn-Neptune opposing the eclipse is going to put a lot of pressure. So from a geopolitical point of view, it's going to be quite dramatic. And speaking about geopolitics, this is the chart of Netanyahu, who was born on an eclipse in Libra. Sun, moon conjunct the south node. So eclipses are very important for him. Make or break. And the September eclipse is going to be right on his Saturn. Depending on how accurate his ascendant is, it's just, there are some debates about what's his exact time of birth. But if this is correct and it's 29, then the second solar eclipse is going to be 29 Virgo opposing Saturn. This is critical for him. An eclipse on Saturn can bring accountability issues. And we know, right, that Judgment Day is coming for him. So I want to bring this example ahead of time so that you can learn astrology in real time and see what happens. A side note on that is that sometimes eclipses are active not just after, but before they happen. So that 15 degrees can already vibrate, right? And if it vibrates, and Mars is going to go over the 18, 15, and then 29. In the course of the month of July, Mars will hit the eclipse degrees. And you will see it. The day that Mars is at 15, the day that Mars is at 18, 23, 29, things will happen. The shift globally and also in your own chart. So pay attention, learn from reality. If you follow what's going on in the Middle East, notice what happens when the Mars is at 15. Notice what happens when it's at 29. and draw your conclusions. So, yeah, somebody says moon at 15, Pisces. And so you need to understand how the natal planet, what it represents, how it's working. Because the nodes activate something that's in the natal signature, right?
Okay.
So here it is. I hope this gives you an insight, and it paves the way for you to better understand where we are all at and why things are happening the way they do, and how we can better navigate this. So thank you, everyone. And we hope, right? We hope you are inspired and you are able to join us online, in person, celebrate astrology.
As usual, Maurice, very rich and really highlights. I mean, there are so many roots to all of this, and I'd really encourage people, all the things that you've shared today, Maurice, but following not only, of course, the eclipse seasons, but the transiting nodes. I watch them very, very closely, and I find, of course, collectively, but as a more person-centered astrologer, a lot of the work I do is more from a counseling perspective, and I am just blown away continuously at what these pointers are, how they are directing us and guiding us. And so, as somebody, as Maurice shared, with a Pluto-Uranus conjunction in Virgo, I am definitely watching this one very closely. But for all of us, we can learn so much. So it's a lot
Beautiful.
just to digest. And I'm so pleased people could be here. And I hope those watching the recording also can just, get to your charts. And as Maurice said, when we experience, pardon me, the eclipses particularly, I couldn't agree with Maurice more. I feel eclipses are very powerful, but have the potential to be very, very positive. And sometimes I think
Yeah,
I watch too many movies, like the vortex opens up and the hero jumps through and, into another dimension. But honestly, I've seen that happen with people where they just change their lives. And
absolutely.
yeah, so I
And
hope you can all.
the changes
Mhm.
that occur on an eclipse are
Mhm.
rapid.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah,
just I watch them every time with my family, my friends, my clients, myself, the stuff that happens, and you're just like, wow.
Hmm.
So yeah, I hope, as Marie said, it's really encourages you all. I just want to say what a great astrologist said to me once about this Virgo Pisces polarity, not to allow it to be paralysis by over-analysis. And I
Yeah.
never, ever forgot that. And to really allow ourselves to bring in a new order so we can bring our vision into clarity, as Maurice said, and really trust and have faith
And I think
tapping
it
into
has to
that.
do with relaxation, relaxing our muscles. We're so
Definitely.
tight. We're so tight because a lot is going on, and it's easy to end up in fear. And like you said, there's also astrology anxiety, right? Oh, an eclipse is coming, it's going to eat me up. And there's so much little knowledge that ends up terrifying because people misinterpret it or misrepresent it.
Yeah.
And that can snowball into its own unnecessary loop.
Yeah. The power of the mind. And we are talking about Virgo, Mercury. And
Yeah.
so, absolutely. Thank you so much, Maurice. And thank you so much, everyone that is here now and that will watch this sometime soon, I hope.
And
And we hope to
welcome,
see
yeah, we hope to see you in this water trine, a nourishing time, both for the soul
you.
and for the body
Yes.
and for the heart.
So, any questions, anything you need, please email me. There's all sorts of ways we can make this happen.
Beautiful. And you offer payments, right? Payment plans as well.
Absolutely. I have payment plans to fit every lifestyle. So,
And those who want to pay more, we also accept that.
well, I don't know about that, but yeah. Payment
Oh,
plans, whatever you
this,
need.
this takes me to another important note about Bali, is that when we're going to Bali, we're also going to contribute to a charity.
Mm,
So we're coming as tourists, but we also want to help the local community. And some of the funds, the donations are going to be collected
yeah,
to support orphanages, education, and good causes.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Maurice, for mentioning that. I meant to. Okay. Well, I hope everyone has a peaceful day where they can just allow themselves to digest everything and have some rest and have a joyful heart, because that's so very important today that we let the love shine. So thank you so much, Maurice. Thank you so much, everyone. And we look forward to being in touch with everybody soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Maurice.
Happy
Bye,
solstice.
everyone. Yes, yes. Bye.